New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering Breeding Law, Section 102 provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members, appointed by the governor by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 6 members having been confirmed by the New York State Senate affords the Commission an ability to establish a quorum and undertake action. This present meeting of the Commission is now called to order. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty.
Here.
Mark Aaron. Peter Machete.
Here.
John Baclemba.
Here.
Barry Sample.
Here.
Todd Snyder.
Here.
The Secretary will please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Given the absence of Chairman Guerin, would the members like to designate a member for the purpose of presiding over today's meeting?
I'd like to nominate Peter Machete.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Machete.
The minutes of the commission meeting conducted on March 23rd of 2015 have been provided to the members in advance. At this time, I'd like to ask the members if there are any edits, corrections, or amendments. Seeing none, please let the record reflect the minutes were adopted. Next is, Rob, you have the executive report.
Thanks. So there's a few items I'd like to discuss. First, the problem gambling forums. And I'd like to give a little brief update on the Office of Internal Controls. We talk a little bit about casino regulation rulemaking, and then finish with some discussion about some upcoming racing events. As we've previously discussed, consistent with Chairman Guerin's request, Commission staff have prepared a few problem gambling forums throughout the state that are designed to raise problem gambling education and awareness. Last month, we reported that the initial event would occur in April. Unfortunately, circumstances prevented that from happening. There is, however, an event scheduled in May. Lee has been coordinating a lot of this. Lee, would you be so kind as to provide us some detail?
Sure. So the New York Responsible Play Partnership, which is comprised of the Gaming Commission, the Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services, and the New York Council on Problem Gambling, will host the inaugural Let's Start the Conversation community outreach event on May 15th. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Monroe Community College's Brighton campus, right near Rochester. The first hour will be a town hall meeting hosted by the New York Council on Problem Gambling to discuss overarching issues related to problem gambling. Then the remaining 2 hours will be an exhibition/trade show where attendees and the general public will interact with exhibitors, including representatives from the Commission, OASIS, and the Council on Problem Gambling, prevention and treatment providers from across Western New York, BLT, racetrack, Indian casino operators, as well as commercial casino applicants, and other parties interested in promoting responsible gaming practices. Invitations for this event to potential exhibitors will be going out this week.
Well, thank you very much, Lee. As a status update of some conversations that I had individually with many of you, the Office of Internal Audit has made a few substantive advances recently. To that end, I've left a folder of information for each member that includes the Internal Audit Directive, setting forth duties and responsibilities of the office, their recently adopted charter, the audit plans for last fiscal year and next fiscal year, and a summary of some recent activity. As previously discussed, Commission staff have been contemplating the development of regulations necessary to govern the new casino gambling industry. We are nearing release of a variety of rule groupings, including facility licensing, occupational licensing, MWBE requirements. Other groupings in development include problem gambling and disability access. I would also expect that work groups to soon be named for internal controls and table game rules. I do anticipate that the first set of rules will be ready for the next Commission meeting. Finally, this Friday and Saturday will see the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby contested. New York is well represented in both races. 3 New York breds, Upstart, Tensador, and International Star, are among likely starters in the Derby. New Yorkers also own no less than 5 likely starters. In the Oaks, one of the favorites is likely to be Condo Commando, which won the Gazelle and is owned by NYRA board member Michael Dubb. The Kentucky Derby, of course, leads us towards the Belmont Stakes. And today we have with us Christopher Kay, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the New York Racing Association, who can give us a brief overview on some of the many changes that will be implemented leading up to and with the Belmont Stakes. Mr. Kay?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Here? Thank you very much. I will be brief, but as a former trial lawyer, that term is relative. What I have done is I have provided you with some information. The first part of it is a report that I gave at our December board meeting, which describes all the changes that have occurred over the last 18 months. And then the second was a report I gave last week, which talks a little bit about the changes going forward. I would just briefly note that 2014, which was the first year our new management team and our new board worked together on a budget, we were able to have an operating budget surplus. It's the first time in 13 years. It was a modest amount, but we were moving in the right direction. We also paid off our $25 million note to Genting in 2014. And 2014 marks the third year in a row that we've now received a clean audit from the international accounting firm of KPMG. So that information, as well as others, is in the materials I'll leave with you, since you're the chairman for the day. Thank you, Mr. Michel. Last year, we did something different. In an effort to try to get more people engaged in this great sport of horse racing, we created a super day for the Belmont Stakes Day. As it turns out, it was the greatest day of racing in America in 2014. A number of races that appeared on different dates were put on that day, and we added a great deal of entertainment with a distinctive New York vibe. And the results were very encouraging. For example, the handle that day was $151 million, breaking the record set in 2004 of $111 million. So it was a substantial increase. And we had a number of people had a wonderful time. There were some issues, and we worked with our partners to address those issues. Last year, there were 36,000 people that came to the track on the Long Island Railroad. The average is 20,000. The most before that date was 26,000. And several people had difficulty getting back home at the end of the day. We partnered with the Long Island Railroad, and together we put $5 million into the station. And so now the platform has been raised, so no longer will people have to walk up or down a couple steps. The platforms have also been extended, so that now instead of having 8 cars, we can have 10 cars, which means 150 more people will be on each train going in and out of our station. And I think most importantly, the people at the Long Island Railroad truly have been great. And they came up with this idea that what they would do is there are 2 lines that go past our facility. One of those lines is going to be shut down for rail traffic for the day and converted into a parking lot. So that when a train leaves our station at the end of the day, there'll be other trains that are sitting on the Hempstead line that will immediately go into its place, which should, in their estimation, cut in half the amount of time it will take for people to get home. We've also have a new head of security. Formerly, he ran the New York City office for the FBI. He has brought in the Department of Transportation expert, so we have that vehicular issue addressed fully with one command post. And so we believe that will also be very important in helping solve that problem. A third issue we had last year was with respect to food and beverage. We've added 250 more hawkers, we have 30% more people, 40% more stations, and so we should be able to provide food and beverage all the way through the end of the day. And this year, the end of the day is going to be a little bit different. Last year was my first year. I thought there would be people lined up queuing to get on the train. I thought it would be great to have some entertainment there. And we had a great Eagles tribute band there near the station. In consultation with Long Island Railroad, they said that's a great idea, but let's do better. Let's put them right there at the winner's circle. And so we're going to have a full hour concert after the last race on Belmont Stakes Day with a nationally known group that we will announce on May 6th, so that there'll be even more reason after the Belmont Stakes to stay and enjoy the concert. So these are all a number of things that we're doing to alleviate some of the problems that were experienced last year. Now, on to the positives. Last year was a great year. We had over 100,000 people. It was a great day of racing. Now we're going to make it into a 3-day festival. So we're gonna make it bigger, bolder, and better. It'll all start on Wednesday around noon at the iconic skating rink at Rockefeller Center. That's where the draw will be held, as opposed to doing it upstairs at Belmont. We should get a lot of interest and national coverage. Then we start with races on Thursday, and between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we'll have a total of 31 races, 17 of them graded stake races. It should be really superb. At the end of the day, Friday, we're also going to have a concert. It's a younger group and appealing to a younger demographic, part of what we're trying to bring to our sport. And so we're going to price it in such a way that if you show up early, you'll pay one rate. If you come later in the day, just to presumably catch the concert, you'll pay more. In an effort to try to get people there early and really get them to enjoy the whole experience. So we'll have 3 days of racing, 31 total races, 17 graded stake races, and a concert after Friday night's effort and also after Saturday night's card. On Saturday, we're going to take the same approach we did last year. We've got 6 grade 1 races. We have 10 graded stake races that day. And we're going to have some great entertainment. Immediately before the Metropolitan, which we hope will be televised nationally on NBC. If not, it will be on NBC Sportsnet, depending upon the length of the boxing match that goes on earlier that day. We will have a tribute to United States Military Academy at West Point. We're going to have their veteran band there. We're going to have paratroopers coming down, parachuting into the infield, and then showing people thereafter in the backyard how they pack their parachute, how they do their job. And we believe we'll also have a jet flyover, depending upon the weather, later that day. Last year we had the United States Attorney General present the trophy, and we hope to have someone of that stature this year. After the Metropolitan will be the Manhattan, which will definitely be on national television. Just as last year, we want to shine a bright light on Broadway, one of Manhattan's greatest gifts. And this year we have a group that will perform that is on Broadway now. It's a long-running show. It will also be revealed on May 6th. And we've invited the mayor to convey the trophy. We'll see if he will be able to attend. And then we'll have the Belmont Stakes. And once again, we'll have a group that will perform 1 or 2 numbers, and then they'll perform a concert after the last race. We'll all sing New York, New York, and then we'll have the Test of the Champion. And so it should be a great day of entertainment, of enhanced food and beverage. By the way, last year we created the new champagne room. It was very successful, and tickets have been flying. We really are, I think we're at 55% now of all tickets sold. We're ahead of last year's rate, particularly in our dining areas and in our box seats. We were, I think, 48 tickets behind in our reserve seats, but we anticipate that all that will ramp up now that we have the interest in the Triple Crown races. Last year, we were able to sell all of our tickets in the grandstand, all of our box seats, and every dining seat before the Preakness race was run, before anyone knew there was going to be a Triple Crown possibility. And we're encouraged that our rate of sales, for the most part, is ahead of last year's rate. So that was my idea of being brief. I apologize for taking so much time. And truly, I hope you'll read the materials. I had to read these reports into the record at our board meetings, and one of them took 25 minutes, so we're saving you time right now.
Thank you.
Are there any questions that you have? Hopefully all of you can come. It should be a great event. And if I don't see you between now and then, we also will have a great event over the July 4th holiday weekend. It's called Stars and Stripes. It's where we bring some of the best from around the world to compete against some of America's best. We were just overseas last week, and we've received a commitment already from 12 horses to come and participate, with more to come. Last year we had 9. Everybody who participated said it was a great event, and it really helps us put us and put the New York Racing Association on the international stage.
Chris, 1 second. So you load up those 3 days with stakes races. It sort of takes away from some of the other days that you have them. I know we talked before about it last summer. Talk for a second about the economics of that versus spreading them out over more weekends.
Certainly. So it goes to the theory that, you know, in pro basketball, every day is a basketball game, and really people begin to focus attention during the playoffs and for the NBA Finals. Same thing in baseball. You can easily get a ticket to a Tampa Bay game against the Yankees in mid-August. People pay attention when they get to the playoffs in the World Series. how do you create that same kind of interest in this sport? And so the strategy was to create 4 days. So you said, if you're not going to pay attention to the rest of the year, pay attention these 4 days. The Belmont Stakes, the new Stars and Stripes, the Whitney, and the Travers at Saratoga. What we found is it's worked very well. Case in point, last year when we had the Belmont Stakes Day, we had exceeded the amount of betting, and we broke the record for the handle before we even got to the Belmont Stakes because of that power pack day. It creates a synergy unto itself. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is actually our all source handle was up a couple % last year over the preceding year, even though we had a downturn in the third and fourth quarter, precisely because of the success of those big days. And so consequently, we're not finding a significant drop off in handle when we put those days together. So for example, the Metropolitan used to be Memorial Day weekend. We saw a drop, but it was offset by the kind of increase we had for Belmont Stakes Day. And it really gets down to the fact that there are so many things that compete for our attention from an entertainment standpoint.
Sure, time.
Exactly. And so we're saying, let's get people to focus on a couple of big days and do it well. And frankly, in one sense, it's no different than what you see at Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs makes all their money on this 2-day weekend.
When is NYRA moving away from Aqueduct and opening this room meet in Belmont?
This week. So I believe Wednesday is Community Day, and I was there at Belmont this morning. And then we are going to be racing this weekend. And in fact, we're really trying to promote the idea for everybody who loves racing to come to Belmont this weekend. You can get up close and personal with horses in the paddock. We have over 650 high-definition television sets, huge high-def video boards, and we'll be watching the Kentucky Derby on all of those. So a group can come out, have a great time, enjoy all that Belmont Park has to offer, have your own Derby party at our place. You don't have to worry about cleaning up. We'll take care of that. That's our plan for this weekend.
One last.
Yes, sir.
For the Belmont Stakes weekend, you still can't bet in New York City. It's a problem broader than you, but any thoughts on relief?
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, we'd love to be able to develop a New York City strategy to try to get into the city, and most importantly, to capture a generation that needs to be captured. You know, when you look at horse racing fans, we kind of missed a generation, and so they haven't been able to pass it along to their kids. We desperately like to get to that 18 to 35-year-old crowd, and there are only 2 ways to do it. One is to persuade them to come out to our track, which is why we have those big event days and why you see us having concerts, for example, or to go to where they are. Go to the restaurants where they hang out. Go to the taverns where they hang out, and hopefully we can do just that. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Congratulations on 2014.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Good
you
job,
very much.
Chris. Thank you.
If any of the commissioners have an interest, as several of you did last year, in visiting Belmont Stakes, please notify myself or Lee, and we'll take care of arrangements. And with that, Mr. Machete?
New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 104.19 authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the Commission will from time to time promulgate rules and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Act. Today, I understand we have 2 rulemaking items for consideration. Mr. Williams, you have, will you please outline the proposal?
Item 4A regards uncoupled entries for certain thoroughbred stakes races. The proposal would amend the Commission's existing rule regarding limitation on entries by removing, in stakes races of purses of $50,000 or more, the requirement that horses be coupled as a single betting interest. The current Commission rule, 4025-10G, allows decoupling of horses that otherwise would have been required to be coupled only in races with purses of $1 million or more. The Commission steward would retain authority to require horses be coupled prior to the commencement of wagering on any particular race upon the finding that doing so is necessary in the public interest. There are 2 general approaches to decoupling. Several states, like Kentucky and Texas, have amended their rules to permit horses with common ownership to compete as uncoupled entries in any stakes race with a gross purse of $50,000 or more. Other states, such as California or Illinois, have repealed their couple entries rule completely. Staff believes that the former approach recognizes that misconduct, such as potential collusion among jockeys of commonly owned horses, is generally less prevalent in races with greater purses, and that a more measured approach, represented by the latter, would provide the Commission with an opportunity to evaluate the effect of a limited amendment before considering a broader relaxation. NYRA and Finger Lakes Racetrack have indicated support of this amendment in order to increase field size, wagering opportunities, and revenue generation. Staff recommends proposal of this rule amendment.
Do the commissioners have any questions on proposal of the rule amendment pertaining to uncoupled entries for certain thoroughbred stakes races? Seeing none, may I have a motion to propose this rule amendment pertaining to uncoupled entries for certain thoroughbred race stakes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Williams, would you call the next item?
Item 4B regards superfecta wagering in thoroughbred racing. At present, NYRA and Finger Lakes offer superfecta wagering through a model rule of the Association of Racing Commissioners International. As you are aware, Commission Rule 4011.28 permits incorporation of an ARCI December 1996 model rule with prior Commission approval. The ARCI rule does not, however, allow the wager with coupled entries. NYRA and Finger Lakes have suggested an amendment in regard to the coupling of entries in a race wherein a wager is offered to make wagering more competitive and attractive to the betting public. To best address this request, the rule proposal would set forth a complete Commission superfecta rule, incorporating the ability to allow superfecta wagering in races, in all races. In addition to the new language, some conforming stylistic changes were proposed to the trifecta rule as well. Staff also recommends the approval of this, or the proposal of this amendment.
Do the commissioners have any questions on this proposal? Seeing none, may I have a motion with respect to this proposal?
Sure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, I think, is the adjudications, and I think we have one hearing officer report for consideration today. Mr. Williams, would please outline the case.
That's correct. This is in the matter of Lewis Pena. The former New York State Racing and Wagering Board issued a summary license suspension of harness trainer Lewis Pena and initiated disciplinary proceedings against him on May 24th, 2012. The board alleged 1,719 violations of rules prohibiting the administration of certain drugs to horses within prohibited timeframes. A hearing was conducted on August 29th through 31st, 2011. The hearing officer's report and recommendation were delivered to the Commission Secretary in September of 2013. Following extensive litigation regarding Commission authority to proceed, the Appellate Division, 3rd Department, recently removed any legal bar to the Commission's proceeding to final decision in this matter. At a meeting conducted pursuant to the judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings exemption of the New York Public Officers Law, Section 108.1, the Commission considered this matter.
The commission duly deliberated and considered this matter and determined on a vote to sustain the hearing officer's report and recommendations, but I understand there's an amendment for that?
Disallowed two.
Disallowed two, all right. So do we need
Which
to-
is included in the report, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not?
No.
So the board, as I understand, the board's counsel requested dismissal of two charges out of the 360 of the administration of Gunnar on the grounds that such charges were misplaced. I understand the commission's decision that we will make sure that those, or we will decide that those two are dismissed. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Yes.
That's the, yeah.
It was a unanimous. Does anyone have any new business to consider? Does anyone have any old business?
There's two items that I'd like to close out, or at least discuss. Last month, Commissioner Snyder requested that a personnel matter that he had discussed with other commissioners individually be raised to me by Chairman Giram. I would like to report that Chairman Giram did so, and that the concern has been resolved. Additionally, last month, Commissioners Crotty and Machete had asked that staff establish a forum at which members could be educated regarding issues relative to the use of Lasix by 2-year-old horses and whether restriction in certain races should be considered. Staff has begun the development of this forum, which will likely be conducted during the Saratoga meet at NYRA's summer meeting.
The next item is to set the May meeting date. Consistent with practice, the next meeting would be May 25th, 2015, the fourth Monday of the month. That day, however, is Memorial Day. Would everyone please check their respective schedules for availability the following day, May 26th. It's my understanding that the meeting could be conducted at 633 3rd Avenue in Manhattan. If you guys could please advise Ms. Buckley of her availability.
Do I decide now?
Certainly. You guys good with the
Is it
26th?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right, so it's 26th.
At 6:33.
Yes.
So that concludes today's published agenda. Do any commissioners have any items they'd like to present for consideration?
No.
Hearing none, this meeting of the New York State Gaming Commission is adjourned.
Thank you.
Well done.